Welcome back to the series where I create brand new Pokemon for my subscribers based on the results of random wheels. Today I gave myself the super fun added challenge of making whatever I create tie into the classic Duel Monsters era of Yu-Gi-Oh! And we ended up with 8 crazy brand new Pokemon lines based on some of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards of all time. I'm super excited to show them to you, so without further ado, let's get into it. And today's first Pokemon will be for Sage Warner. I'm glad you found the series and I hope you stick around. But anyway, Sage, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a mythical Pokemon for the first one of the day. This is only like the 3rd or 4th mythical in all the 200 Pokemon we've ever made, so that is absolutely insane. Mythical Pokemon usually don't evolve, but we do still spin this wheel where you have a very small chance to, but none this time. Now let's see what typing this mythical Pokemon's going to be. Your first up is going to be the ground type. That is my favorite type of all time, so a ground type mythical is amazing, and ground fighting. That's actually really cool typing. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see what its X Factor is going to be, and it is a signature new mechanic that could literally be anything. Your Pokemon is Fixodia, the 5-part Pokemon. This Pokemon doesn't look like much, but don't worry, because just like Exodia, the card it's based on, Fixodia is a being of unrivaled power once it's fully put together. You see, Fixodia's new mechanic is part of a signature ability called Slowbliterate, and it states that every turn, Fixodia will slowly reform its body, gaining increases in stats along the way until after 5 turns when it's restored to its former godly glory. Because while it starts out with stats similar to a non-fully evolved Pokemon, once it stays on the field for a full turn, it will excavate one of its arms and develop stats similar to a starter Pokemon final stage. A turn after that, it will have both arms and have stats on par with pseudo-legendary. And after unearthing its first leg, it will get stats that challenge most box art legendary. But once fully completed, its true godly power is revealed as it now has stats equal to Arceus. That's right, in terms of stats, Fixodia has 120 in every single category. But it does have to be on the field for 5 turns to get to this level, so I think it's balanced. And for the shiny, I went with this yellow gold color as a reference to the fusion monster, the unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. And today's second Pokemon will be for Nathaniel Smith. Sounds like time well spent. But anyways, Nathaniel, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you're going to be a Convergent Evolution. That is definitely one of the more difficult results we can get, so wish me luck. And now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon will be making a Convergent for, and it's Gen 7. Cool. And of course, now we'll spin this wheel that has every single Gen 7 Pokemon on it, and we got Mudsdale. That is actually one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. I know that's super random, but it is, so this is amazing. And now let's see what new typing we'll be giving to this Convergent Mudsdale. Your first type is going to be None, which means whatever this next type is, it's your only type, and it's the Steel type. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. The first stage of your Pokemon is Mudbrave, the Steed Pokemon. These Pokemon are known to spend their entire lives searching for the mightiest of trainers whom they will serve with unending loyalty. That is, unless they end up meeting a stronger trainer, in which case they will abandon their owner to continue their search for the best of them all. And at level 30, it would evolve into Mightdale. Based on Gaia the Fierce Knight, this evolution is said to only occur when Mudbrave truly believes its trainer is the strongest in the world. And to that trainer, Mightdale will lend its incredible speed and large lance-like horn, which allows it to unleash charging attacks so shockingly powerful that even the most defensive of Pokemon can't hope to survive. In terms of stats, Mightdale has absolutely insane speed as well as physical attack, but its special stats are really bad. And for the shiny, I went with this red color as a reference to the fire versions of Gaia, which both wear a more fiery outfit. And speaking of fire outfits, today's video is sponsored by Fabletics. Y'all, I am all about a functional, comfy outfit, and my new clothes from Fabletics October collection are functional and comfy. But seriously, the materials are all super nice and breathable while still being stylish. I've worn them in the gym, and I've worn them just laying around and felt super put together and super comfy. But easily my favorite piece is this hoodie. This is just so me. Y'all should definitely expect to see this in several videos in the near future. But the best part about Fabletics is their VIP program, where users who sign up will get 80% off their first order. And then as a member, you'll get up to 50% off your orders after that. That's not even close to all of it. You also get 1 credit per month, which you can redeem for a 2-piece outfit or any other product up to $100. And you also get access to exclusive monthly drops, early access to new styles, VIP-only sales, and even free access to their Fit app. And the membership is flexible, so if for whatever reason you want to skip a month, you can. It's seriously a crazy crazy value, so make sure to check it out by using the link that's in my description to get 80% off your first order. Huge thank you to Fabletics for sponsoring today's episode and for giving me my new favorite hoodie, but now let's get right back into it. And today's third Pokemon will be for Romon. I actually don't have an official name for the custom Pokemon region yet, so let me know in the comments any ideas that y'all have. But anyways, Romon, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a legendary. So far, this episode has been a mythical, a conversion of my favorite Pokemon, and now a legendary. I'm just having the best time. And legendary Pokemon usually don't evolve, but we do still spin this wheel where you have a very small chance to, but none this time. And now let's see what typing this legendary Pokemon's going to be. Your first up is going to be the Psychic type. That is a cool type for sure, and Psychic Dark type. I can think of a very iconic Yu-Gi-Oh card that's associated with the Dark type, so that's definitely good. And last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see what its X Factor is going to be, and it is a corrupted form. That's it. This is my favorite video I've ever made. It's official. Your Pokemon is Manubis, the loyal protector Pokemon. This Pokemon hails from an ancient civilization that was led by a wise and determined pharaoh, for whom Magnibus served as a personal bodyguard, just like how Mahad served the pharaoh in Yu-Gi-Oh before being turned into the Dark Magician. Or at least that was until one day when the Yu-Gi-Oh region was noticed by the distant evil cosmic legendary, who sought to bring the pharaoh's great nation to a permanent end. So it corrupted Manubis, infusing it with the cosmic type and turning it into its loyal servant, with an appearance based on the Dark Magician of Chaos. And with its new cosmic abilities, Manubis was forced to slay its former master, forever changing the course of the region's history. In terms of stats, corrupted Manubis has absolutely insane special defense and even more insane special attack, but the rest of its stats are just okay. And for the shiny, I went with this light blue and pink color as a reference to Dark Magician Girl. And today's fourth Pokemon will be for Mr. Tickman. Thank you, Mr. Tickman. Thank you. And as always, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a Paradox Pokemon. This is absolutely insane. We have still not gotten a regular Pokemon today. And now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon will be making a Paradox form for, and it's Gen 2. Nice. And now, of course, we'll spin this wheel that has every single Gen 2 Pokemon on it, and we got Xatu. That is definitely one of the stranger Pokemon of all time, so this is actually looking pretty difficult right now. And every Paradox form keeps at least one of its old typings, so we know that it'll stay Psychic type, but let's still spin to get a secondary type, and it's the Steel type. At this point, I seriously have no idea where this design is gonna go, but hopefully we can gain some clarity by spinning this wheel to see if it's a past or future Paradox form, and it is a future Paradox. Cool. Your Pokemon is Iron Diffuser, the Negation Pokemon. This Pokemon has the special power to nullify the special powers of other Pokemon, as it constantly radiates with an aura of disruptive telekinetic waves that prevents elemental energy from forming, just like how the card it's based on, Genzo, prevents trap cards. Meaning if you want to defeat Iron Diffuser, you're going to have to do it with physical attacks only. In terms of stats, Iron Diffuser has the highest special defense stat in Pokemon history, but the rest of its stats are pretty bad. And for the shiny, I went with this purple color as a reference to the card Genzo Lord. And today's fifth Pokemon will be for Braxton. Thanks so much. And of course, we'll start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be another Convergent Evolution. We still have not gotten a regular Pokemon. And now we have to spin this wheel again to see what generation of Pokemon will be making a Convergent for, and it's Gen 8. That is a very underrated generation in my opinion, so I love that. And of course, now we'll spin this wheel that has every single Gen 8 Pokemon on it, and we got more Grimm. That is actually a really good result because not only is the Grimmsnarl line super cool, they're also very humanoid, which means there's a ton of Yu-Gi-Oh cards we could use as inspiration. And now let's see what typing we'll be giving to this Convergent Grimmsnarl. Your first type is going to be the Ghost type. That is really cool, pretty close to Grimmsnarl's original typing as well, and you're actually pure Ghost type because your second type was none. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do! A Mega Evolution. There is something in the water with today's episode, I swear. The first stage of your Pokemon is Summoned, the Archfiend Pokemon. These Pokemon live exclusively in the hellish landscape of the Yu-Gi-Oh region's underworld, where they appear to serve the more powerful creatures that reside there as a sort of minion. And at level 32, it evolves into Morphine. This Pokemon specializes in dark magic attacks that are less destructive and more confusing. As in battle, it prefers to use its Ghost-type attacks to create distracting displays to draw the opponent's attention before dealing the real damage with its physical attack. And at level 42, it evolves into Grimmskull, inspired by my personal favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card, the Summoned Skull. This Pokemon is among the the strongest of the underworld residents. However, despite this, it rarely fights for itself, as its great power attracts a multitude of weaker Pokemon who serve under it and can fight its battles for it. But make no mistake, if Grimmskull ever does choose to enter the fray, the battle will soon be over. And when exposed to Grim Ice, it would evolve into Mega Grimmskull. Upon Mega Evolution, Grimmskull will absorb the power of its minion army, turning them completely powerless as it siphons all of their energy into its own, tremendously increasing its power in the process and giving it access to the electric type, as a reference to the Skull Archfiend of Lightning, the effect monster version of Summon Skull. In terms of stats, Mega Grimmskull is a powerful mixed attacker with decent stats across the board. And for the shiny, I went with this purple color as a reference to the Synchro monster version of Summon Skull called Archfiend's Call. And today's 6th Pokemon will be for Poncho. I'm super stoked too. So alright Poncho, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular finally. And there is nothing wrong with that. And now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 2, which makes you a full 3-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Bug type. Weevil Underwood would be very happy at that. And Bug Fighting type. Interesting. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. The first stage of your Pokemon is Flipsect, the man-eating Pokemon. These Pokemon are known to hide amongst the foliage of their jungle homes, where they lie patiently for prey to get close. And as soon as any creature disrupts the surrounding leaves near its hiding place, Flipsect will launch itself towards them and attack with an instant flurry of strikes, as a reference to how the card Man-Eater Bug lies face down and destroys monsters when flip face up. And at level 13, it would evolve into Mimicect. This Pokemon is based on the Man-Eater Bug's modern retrain, the Mimicking Man-Eater Bug, and has a devious new trick in its arsenal, as it now has the ability to perfectly recreate the cry of any other Pokemon. And it uses this ability to dupe prey into thinking a friendly creature is nearby, which creates the perfect trap. And at level 25, it evolves into Noblow. Based on the Noble Man-Eater Bug, the level 5 evolution of the Man-Eater Bug, this Pokemon is now much more bulky and offensively capable, to the point where it no longer has to rely on cheap tricks to get its food, instead choosing to face the world head-on and use its giant claws to punish all who get in its way. In terms of stats, I picture Noblow as like the early route bug of the Yu-Gi-Oh region, so none of its stats are too good. And for the shiny, I went with this really bright light blue color just because I thought it looked cool. And today's 7th Pokemon will be for Moonstone Star. Up next is you. And let's prove that by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular again. Still nothing wrong with that. And now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 0, which actually makes you a basic Pokemon. And now let's see what typing this Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Steel type. I think that's actually the 3rd Steel type of this video, so that's pretty crazy. And Steel Dragon type. I was really hoping we'd get at least one Dragon type because there's so many iconic dragons in Yu-Gi-Oh, so that's amazing. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do an additional form. You don't have any regular evolutions, but you do have an additional form. This could get interesting. Your Pokemon is Tyrant, the Shining Pokemon. This Pokemon is covered in a metallic alloy that's incredibly durable and makes it nearly impossible to harm. And when you add to this Tyrant's natural aggression and proclivity to attack anything and everything that gets in its way, you get one of the most difficult creatures to catch in the entire Pokemon world. However, for a lot of trainers, this actually makes Tyrant all the more intriguing because managing to catch one is kind of a huge flex. However, legend says if you manage to catch 3 Tyrants, then you'll be able to bring all 3 of them into the same battle, at which point they'll combine into their Burst Stream form, an incredibly powerful 3-headed monstrosity that's only held back by the fact that it essentially takes up 3 party slots. In terms of stats, this form of Tyrant has a total of 670, which is crazy, but it does take up half your team, so it's probably okay. And for the shiny, I turned it Silver Body Gold. And today's 8th Pokemon will be for Owen. You don't have to wait long because you're on it right now. But anyways, Owen, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a Fossil Pokemon. That's really cool. And now let's see how many times your Fossil Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 1, which makes you the maximum 2-stage evolution line. And now let's see what typing your Fossil Pokemon's going to be, besides, of course, the Rock type, and it is the Ice type, just like Amoris. That's interesting. And the last step, before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. The first stage of your Pokemon is Miniath, the Mini Mammoth Pokemon. These Pokemon are very immobile thanks to the fact that their tusks actually weigh more than the rest of their body. And you think this would have made it easy prey in the ancient Yu-Gi-Oh region? But you'd be very wrong, because at level 32, it evolves promoted to Blizzard. Based on the skeletal mammoth graveyard card, this Pokemon has a similarly odd appearance, which is actually an adaptation to its environment, as by not carrying any unnecessary weight and essentially being all skin and bones, Blizzard requires very little food, which allows it to maintain a large stature even in the desolate tundra. In terms of stats, Blizzard has really good physical attack, but it is super slow and its defenses are really bad. And for the shiny, I went with this pink color to make it look even more unnerving. YouTube thinks that you'll like this video of some other fan-made Pokemon I've made, so if you enjoyed today's episode, I would appreciate it if you checked out more of my stuff. I'm gonna get right back to making some awesome custom Pokemon for you, so I'll see you in the next episode, but until then, peace.